You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Golseth. We get to talk with one of our friends from across the street at Lutheran Church Extension Fund today, the Reverend Bart Day, President and CEO of LCEF, joining me in studio today to give us an update on LCEF and remind us what you're all about. So thanks for joining me in studio.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always great to be with you.
So remind us, for maybe people who, don't know what LCEF is or does, or gets it confused with all the other Lutheran named, acronymed organizations. Remind us of what LCEF does.
So Lutheran Church Extension Fund is now 40 years old. So we had our birthday this past year. LCEF was created to serve the financial needs of the church. And so today, after 40 years, facing the changing needs of churches, whether those are congregations or schools or recognized service organizations or actual individuals with home mortgages, we're here to support them in those financial needs. We do that primarily by making low-cost loans to individuals or to organizations. We also provide several ministry support service pieces to strengthen those ministries. And we do all of that based on investors who faithfully entrust LCF with their dollars to invest, us then using those dollars to fuel the loan demand across the church and around the world.
Absolutely. And we've shared a few stories of this, what this actually looks like on the other end of the impact of what your work does. But share a story or two of what this actually looks like, the difference that this makes.
Sure. The stories, a lot of people know the typical stories of a congregation who just needs maybe to build something new, or they just need to update something, a church improvement, or a school needs a new gym floor. We do a lot of those kind of projects. But as the church has changing needs and congregations are engaged in their communities, lots of really different and exciting things that are happening that LCF is helping to do. One story we'd like to share is about Grace Lutheran in Blaine, Washington. They live in a community that is highly affected by a large and growing number of homeless folks. The congregation has been engaging with them, trying to help, and saw that in their community, while there are a lot of services, no real transitional housing for a little bit longer period of time. So you had mom and dad with 2 kids where they either sleep in separate facilities overnight in shelters that are divided for men and women, or they stay on the street, together. Difficult. So Blaine decided they would work with LCF and purchase a home, got that home remodeled, using that as transitional housing now for homeless families to be able to stay in for multiple months as they help to transition them back into the community. So that's a real exciting and unique project that LCF was happy to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is that, what do investors feel, or what difference does that make for investors when they hear about stories like this?
Well, what we hear from our investors is they know that they can park their money just about anywhere. A lot of people today are looking to purchase money. Banks are looking for money. And our investors know that if you invest at a bank, they'll build another bank. And if you invest at LCEF, we'll actually build the church. So our investors, I think, are excited because they get a nice return on their dollars, but they actually believe that it's important to put some of their funds on deposit at LCEF because they know that they're fueling ministry for the church. LCF is oftentimes able to loan to both individual, like roster church workers, and congregations that probably would not find a commercial lender who would borrow to them. Now, that doesn't mean that LCF is taking really risky loans. And sometimes, unfortunately, LCF has to say no. And some things are projects that we just can't do. But we're also able to loan to an awful lot of people and institutions and organizations that might not find funding otherwise because they're doing that to fuel ministry. And that's a hard thing to quantify for a bank. That's just sort of about the metrics and the number, the ministry impact, what this might do over a period of time. And so that's exactly why LCF is there. So I think our investors really feel that. They know that putting some dollars on deposit at LCF is actually making a difference for the kingdom, fueling and funding ministry that probably would not happen without their support.
Absolutely. Now tell us some more of the things that LCEF does. This isn't the only thing that the LCEF does.
No, that's right. We certainly provide a lot of other services to congregations. This comes through our ministry support group. So things like Vision Path, which I think even KFEO has been a part of. This is where we help a congregation or organization really kind of discover God's plan and his purpose for them and how that's implemented. It might be strategic planning, but really visioning and thinking about the future of new ways to engage. One of the things I like to say is that LCEF is really in ministry support, inviting congregations to dream about the future. A steward path, people remember the old program that's still around, consecrated stewards, but really inspiring congregational members or organizations around good, faithful biblical stewardship, financial giving, but also holistic all-of-life stewardship as programs that we provide. Immeasurably More is the program to do capital campaigns. We find that a lot of churches or organizations are looking to launch new campaigns, and they need LCF for more than just the loan. They also need us to come alongside them and help them raise those dollars. So Immeasurably More helps do that. And people remember Old Laborers for Christ, which are still around. These faithful men and women, oftentimes in their motorhomes, who go to locations and actually help with construction projects, oftentimes saving congregations tens of thousands of dollars based on their actual work on the site. And that's only some of the things that we're able to do, but ministry support in those services, really we see them kind of wrapping around ministries to help support them, and also to assure that the investments that LCF makes there actually help bear fruit and do impact into the future.
Yeah. What do these other programs mean for congregations who are able to partner with LCEF and have these additional services? What difference does that make for the congregations or organizations that are able to use these services in addition to the rest of the services that you offer?
Well, it's certainly something that differentiates LCF from other financial institutions. Those institutions don't come alongside to offer those other services. And it's really because we want them to be successful. We want them to think about the future and then actually have a plan to implement and strategize around the dollars that they need. So I think at LCF, we view that those dollars are really neutral. They're stored potential, and we want to see congregations and ministries reach that full potential. So coming alongside them to do strategic planning, thinking about the future, raising those dollars, having good biblical stewardship throughout the congregation, all of those things just assure that really helpful and healthy ministry is happening in their locations.
Right, and this is something that is unique as well, because it comes from a place of a Christian worldview, and that's not something that you're going to get from a lot of other places.
Absolutely, the Christian worldview, our Lutheran-owned doctrine and emphasis are threaded into all of those programs.
Right.
So I think people find kind of a helpful home and kind of a familiar voice at LCEF. I think pastors really appreciate that. Sometimes pastors are left to kind of navigate a lot of things that none of us were trained to do at the seminary around, planning and strategy and even business implementation, even talking about biblical stewardship. So the fact that LCF can come in and offer that support and service, particularly to pastors or to the church council, I think it's an encouragement to them, and I think strengthens them in their work.
Absolutely. So where can people find information about these other programs?
Well, you can always visit us at lcef.org, or you can always call us at 1-800-843-5233 and just ask the ladies at the information center or the call center, and they'll certainly get you to the folks at ministry support.
Absolutely. So we talked about a lot about investors as a group of people, but let's talk a little bit more about them. Who are these investors?
So the investors at LCF now number over 61,000.
Wow.
And they have nearly $2 billion on deposit at LCEF. Again, these are people who have a heart for the ministry of LCF. They see their dollars being able to do amazing things. So that loan portfolio continues to grow. Last year, a lot of people got really excited because LCF had a special promotion for our investors, and particularly trying to find new investors. We wanted to raise $100 million. So we offered those 40-month notes at 4%. That was all part of our 40th anniversary. Of course, LCF raised that $100 million in a very short period of time. And that raising of the money, Sarah, was really based on the fact that we had a lot of loan volume that was going on. And in fact, most of that money went out the door of LCF as quickly as it came in. So I would just encourage your listeners and our faithful investors to know that there is still a very real need this year at LCEF. The loan demand this year will probably be over $300 million, again, in loan demand. And that means we're going to continue to need investor dollars. So that partnership with those 61,000 people, which are just a small fraction of the total number of members of the LCMS.
Right.
We need them, we need more, and we need those dollars, again, to fuel and support the ministry that's happening around the world.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit more about why the need for more people. I mean, it sounds kind of obvious. Of course, you want more people, but what are those specific reasons why it's so important to keep building that base?
Sure. Well, like most agencies in the Synod, our base is aging.
Yeah.
So that's important. We need to connect with younger folks in congregations. We want the young people in the church to know that the Extension Fund exists in the ministry that we serve, and the congregations and schools that we've supported. You know, the numbers are crazy. Over the last 40 years, LCF has served something like over 80% of the ministries of the Synod in one way or another. So most congregations, schools, workers really want and value and need LCF at some period of time. And again, that will only happen with the investors. So we want to find ways to engage younger investors, which means LCF is also looking at ways to change. We know that younger investors are looking to do micro lending and social enterprise, and they ask for all kinds of new products. And so LCF is looking at those things. You know, we have all the traditional things from IRAs all the way down to just term notes, whether those are 6-month or up to 5-year notes, ways to just have basically like checking accounts, YI Club, Young Investors, where godparents and grandparents and parents are able to start setting aside monies for their young ones. But we're also hearing from people that they want new products, they want new offerings, and new ways for the church to actually be able to support the growing needs. So LCF is looking at that. Our marketing department is changing and growing and trying to listen more to the church and be able to respond with actual products for our investors that they value, but really connect directly with supporting the church and its growing mission.
Absolutely. And we just have about a minute left, but the YI Club is always something fun for families. Can you just like elevator speech for young families, what that does for young families and young children?
Well, the Young Investors Club was specifically started to give parents and grandparents an opportunity to open up an account for those children or grandchildren. It pays 3.5%, so it's a great interest rate.
Yeah.
You can start it with as little as $50. Most people put money in every month. It's also tied. There's special incentives for getting good grades and doing social service hours. So it's just a great way for young children in the church to learn about investing and to learn about investing with the church, and then being able to see and hear those stories and share those with young children about how the monies that they have on deposit at LCF are helping to, you know, build a new Lutheran school or help a congregation who needs a new roof or maybe do ministry somewhere around the world. So
absolutely,
it's a wonderful opportunity to get the young ones involved and connected with Church Extension Fund.
Yeah. So we have just about 30 seconds left. Any last words that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just a huge thank you to everyone who continues to support LCEF, especially our faithful investors. We love you and thank you for your dedication and commitment to the work and the ministry of LCEF.
All right. The Reverend Bart Day, President and CEO of Lutheran Church Extension Fund. Thank you so much for joining me in studio today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always great to be with you.
You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.